Hi guys, I'm going to have a horror DVD review for you today. This is the 2012 film The Lodge. Now, it's made by 101 Films. You can see the logo. We've got a few horror films by these, and none of them have been particularly made up with. I think they've overall been pretty poor, but after watching this, I have to say it's probably my favourite film by 101 Films. Basically, the film's about a young couple who decide to rent a lodge, and the man has intentions of posing to her whilst there. And, you know, you go to have, like, sex and stuff like that. Just a typical young couple day. You know, there's a lot of sexual conversation between the two and a lot of, you know, stuff like that. When they get there, though, things aren't as they seem. Like, the kitchen is very messy, like, as if people have recently been living there. Like, the door wasn't locked as it should have been. And they bump into a groundsman called Henry, who, something doesn't seem right with him. And there's some great scenes where, he doesn't particularly seem familiar with the area, so they're very suspicious of him. And there's a good scene in the kitchen when he's actually looking for the glasses, but he can't find them. He's looking for the drawers, and I just thought it was a good scene to kind of, like, you know, show how he just isn't familiar with the place and things are not as they seem. The film started off very, like, with a pretty cool scene, a couple of deaths. Very fast paced, but then, like, it slowed down to introduce the couple, and there was a bit of character development in there for a good 10, 15, 20 minutes. And they tried to develop the characters, and they added some backstory, but I wasn't particularly attached to the characters. Like, later on I wasn't, like, rooting for them or anything like that, which kind of does ruin a film like this, where there's only two characters being stalked. Like, you have to be attached to them if there's so few characters, you know. If there's, like, 6 of them, like, you know, some of them are just there for the slaughter, which is entertainment, but then when it's 2, you have to get attached to the characters, and I didn't really. But overall, I still enjoyed the film. So the lodge itself was brilliant. It was a really, really nice place. It just looked beautiful, and the surrounding areas were really good, like some good woodland shots. There was lots of shots of, like, just the area, and it was a very, like, good lodge. The lodge itself, the interior had some pretty, in the day, I thought it had some pretty good potential to be really creepy. However, it didn't really make the most of that, and at night it never really truly felt like it was night in the lodge, especially upstairs. But yeah, there was some great potential with the interior of the lodge, but they didn't really you know, work on it. Throughout the film, I've also seen this little girl who's, like, got blonde hair and, like, a rash on her face, but she, for me, was the one weak point when it comes to acting in the film. Because overall, the acting was okay. In horror films, you know, you don't expect Oscar-worthy performances, and usually it's quite poor, but generally I thought it was quite good, particularly the main couple. However, of the two, I'd say the woman was a better actress than the man. And Henry was a good actor as well. But overall, I thought the little girl was pretty poor, to be honest. Like, her makeup effects just didn't work for me. They just didn't look right, and it just looked cheap and just wasn't working. And then her actions and mannerisms just weren't right. I feel like she was very straight-faced the entire time, and she probably has been told to do it that way, but for me, it just didn't work. You know, like, with the build-up, it was kind of predictable a bit. Like, the whole story in general was pretty predictable. I mean, it's later on it's revealed that the killer has been doing it for 16 years and murdering people, and some of the stuff that he does in it is really idiotic, and you have to, like, I couldn't help but laugh when he said he'd been doing it for 16 years and he referred to himself as a pro, because he'd made so many mistakes and stupid mistakes that, you know, allowed the couple to escape or whatever, and you just know that there's no way, if he had been doing it for 16 years, he'd be long dead by now. But anyway, also the ending for me was pretty poor. There's a very, very, very bad ending, twist ending. And another thing to mention, it's an 18, the film. It says contains strong violence, gore, threat, and sexual violence. But there was very, very little violence and gore for me. There was one scene towards the end, but apart from that, there was very little blood. Like, there's a couple of people with scratches and cuts, but no blood flowing or splatter or anything like that. And overall, it just didn't work. Like, there just wasn't enough violence for me. I mean, like, to get the 18, I think they just threw in a load of sex references and a lot of drug use and a lot of swearing. But overall, I just did not think this film deserved to be an 18. But I did enjoy the film overall. I'm giving it a 5 out of 10 because it was decent. You know, it was interesting enough, but I just wasn't in love with the film, and I wasn't fully attached to the cast, the characters, which is really important with a film where there's only 2 main characters. And your rating?
4.
So 4 and a 5 out of 10. It's a decent enough film. You know, I wouldn't say you have to watch this film. It's not a must watch, but then again, it's a good addition to my collection, especially because I got it for £3 new from Asda, and I'm happy with the purchase, and it was a decent enough film to watch. So that's pretty much all I've got to say about my review for The Lodge, and it's a good film. It's a decent film, sorry, so check it out if you want to, but you know, you're not going to miss out if you don't. But yes, that's my review, so thank you for watching, and please subscribe.